It's time to check in. This is Vivi.
This is Tony.
After sharing about Bali and our experience there, it's time to hop over to the other islands of Indonesia. Since Indonesia is a
Archipelago.
yeah. I can never pronounce that word, but it means it's a chain of islands. So there's a bunch of different islands that you can also visit that's around Bali area. We had visited Nusa Penida, which is like a little island off of Bali. It was just okay. We took a tour. It has really nice views and blue waters and beaches, but it was just okay to me.
Well, we went on an Instagram tour, so they were more focused on getting the good shots, the good pictures, and you didn't really fully immerse into the experience.
Yeah, and I mean the driver was pretty much your photographer as well, and I've never seen those type of photography skills with a phone camera before. It was crazy. They were making videos and I was like, whoa, this guy is the real business. But the only reason we went on this Instagram tour was because Tony's foot wasn't doing so well after the whole Singapore trip and he was still kind of limping a little bit. I was pretty much on my period and it had just started. So I couldn't go snorkeling for the manta rays, which we initially planned.
Oh, also Nusa Penida has one of the worst roads we've ever encountered in our life.
Yeah, we were driving from the east side of the island to the west side of the island. It was just constant driving and it was really bumpy. If you are planning to go to Bali and considering Nusa Penida, I would do your research and see if you are going snorkeling. Maybe it's going to be a much better experience. But if you're just going to go on like an Instagram tour for photos, I don't really recommend it.
Let's talk about Flores. It's a 1-hour flight from Bali in the shortest legroom plane possible. We were there to see Komodo Dragons.
Which was my idea to go to the island of Flores because I wanted to see something different. And Komodo dragons you don't see on a regular day, not even in the zoo. When my friends asked me, why were you going to Flores? I showed them a photo of the Komodo dragon and they asked me, so why?
It's like, are you crazy? Do they eat people?
Yeah, they technically are carnivores.
Then why are you going?
And they're like, you could see them in the zoo. And I just said, but it's different. This Komodo Island is where you can see them up close. Obviously not too close. You get to see them in the wild. It's different.
Your girlfriends think you have a few screws loose on your head.
Yeah, they definitely didn't understand. And then when I showed them the other reason I was going, the pink sand beach, they're like, oh, okay, this one's better.
But your headline of this trip, other than Bali, was Komodo Dragons.
Yeah, actually, I chose Flores first. But Bali was like the main island that was near there and more well-known and also had aspects that I wanted to see too. Flores is a much smaller island than Bali, so you only needed like about 2-3 days there.
It felt like a retreat since it's smack dab in the middle of our Bali trip. We're immersing in Bali, taking a 2-day excursion out to Flores to just get a different vibe, and then returning to Bali instead of a full extent of Bali and then moving to Flores and then flying off, which is not convenient. A fun fact is you can only fly domestic into Flores, so it would be pretty inconvenient if we're to leave the country from Flores, which means we would need to transfer flight.
We would have to go back to Bali anyway.
That's a good retreat move.
Also gave us a little bit of a break from Bali. We stayed in a resort in Flores, so it definitely gave us a different vibe than the villa stays that we were doing in Bali.
You weren't that inclined to do all-inclusive resorts previously. This is our first all-inclusive resort that you've ever done.
Yeah, and I did see it on social media. I looked at all of the resort services and also like the view and everything, and I just fell in love. It kind of gave me a slightly different vibe. It had very beautiful sunset views. It's kind of beachfront. The services that were provided seemed a little bit more down to earth, in my opinion, other than just like spas and stuff like that. There was also like coral reef planting. They also had like a really nice pool where you could watch the sunset at. So for me, it just was something I wanted to give a try. And it was still very affordable. Even for like an all-inclusive resort, the room that we paid was $200 something.
A night?
Yes.
That's very budget-friendly for an all-inclusive resort, but I got a feeling they'll get you elsewhere.
Oh yeah, they definitely did.
So once we landed, I had this thing called a male intuition.
Which I didn't really think was a thing at all previously.
Oh, so females have a female intuition and guys can't have one?
Well, I told Tony that I don't really think guys have that, or that sixth sense is more for women.
So y'all be the judge. When we landed, we got off the plane, went to the carousel where our luggages came, And in my mind, I just went, what if our luggage just came out first and we could get on with our day?
And I'm like, it has never come out first. I don't think that will happen. Don't get your hopes up.
Yeah, what are the odds, right? And the carousel started spinning. And through the trap doors, the first thing that came out was our luggage that had our little stuffed animal indicator on it. And the first thing I did was, oh, and I just stared straight at you with a huge smile on my face.
That was incredible. I was like, okay, we could get out of here.
Male intuition, baby. Do you believe it?
I do now, but it wasn't even just this instance that made me believe that, okay, Tony does kind of have a male intuition. You got to see it to believe it, okay? He's more spot on than I am. Maybe my radar is just broken.
When that happened, I had this feeling that this was going to be a good stay.
Even though the resort was somewhat close to the airport, I did request for driver service because I just didn't want to deal with getting like a ride at the airport, because my first impression of Bali when we exited the airport was, wow, everybody was crowding you, asking you, do you need a ride? Do you need a ride? And I felt really overwhelmed with that. So even though the resort obviously charges you more, but I just felt it just takes away that feeling where I need to go and pick and choose one of these people, right? So we went out and we saw the sign for our driver and we got on. It was a really nice ride to a resort. And when we got there, we were able to check in right away.
From what I observed from the airport and leaving the airport, Flores was really different from Bali. The roads were very paved. It's not sea of cars, sea of scooters everywhere fighting and edging for space. It was just more calm and relaxing. More the vibe I was expecting out of Bali, but it actually happened in Flores.
Yeah, I was really surprised of that too, because Flores is not as well known as Bali. Of course, it's a smaller island and there's less to see, less to do as well. That's why we only spent like 2-3 days there. But I think the vibe just starting out leaving the airport was very different, and I was relaxed. I did feel a lot better at that point because we had already spent 5 days in Bali. And so when we were heading to our resort, I was just looking out the window and I was enjoying the ride. And when we got to our resort, I was wowed. This is a beautiful place. This is exactly how I saw it on social media. I didn't feel like I was lied to, unlike one of the villas that we ended up staying at in Bali. We finally had this feeling of relaxation. But actually, the stop was mainly for the adventure. It was to see the Komodo dragons in the wild, in their own habitat, and also to see the pink sand beach. And at the time when I was planning this, I was looking into 2 different tours. One was through our resort, which they offered a private tour for 6 people. Because we only have 2 people, we would still need to share the tour with 4 other people. But they did say that if they don't get enough people, they wouldn't actually start the tour. And the pricing of the tour was more expensive than the one I found online. It was like double the price, which was about $200 something per person. The one that I found online on Viator, they had the same itinerary. That one was about $120, and it was a full day tour.
Half off.
Yeah, budget-friendly me decided that since we're already staying at a nice resort, let's just go on a tour with other people.
But you said we're starting earlier, right?
Yeah, we started at like 5 a.m.
And we had 4:30 a.m. room service.
Oh yeah, for breakfast, because we definitely needed to eat. It was going to be a full day tour where lunch was only provided.
I can't believe we're getting up at ungodly hours at a relaxing resort just to go see some Komodo dragons and go on this boat excursion.
Yeah, but it was going to be an unforgettable, adventurous leg of our trip.
We're not doing anything crazy like that after this, right?
I don't know. We'll see. But we did start out our day really early. We got picked up, we ended up going to the pier, and then we took a boat onto another island. Like I mentioned, our honeymoon was really island hopping, and we went to like a total of 10 islands, including the countries that we went to, but a lot of islands were actually on Indonesia. Our first stop was Padar Island, which was a hike. It did allocate like about an hour's time for people to hike up there and also catch the beautiful view of multiple islands from the top and the blue waters that were surrounding it.
There was actually deers at the pier, and you were so happy to see those deers just chilling at the beach.
Yeah, I really wanted to see wildlife. It's just something different that we don't get in our daily lives living in a city, unless you go to the zoo, right?
All that's missing is you wearing an actual safari outfit and all this.
Yeah, I was already having sun allergies and all that, so I was wearing like long sleeve, long skirt while having to hike.
And an umbrella.
Yeah, I did bring an umbrella. It wasn't even a sun umbrella, but it was something from our resort just to kind of protect me a little bit from the sun, while we were doing this hike because it was not a covered and shaded hike. The guide told us that it was 800 steps going up. And then there's a little bit more because there's like a part where there wasn't steps.
Yeah. Did you make it all the way?
I made it all the way up to where the steps ended. It was really, really nice on top. It was a very hot and musty hike. The weather was already kind to us because it was somewhat overcast. But while I was hiking, I'm like, oh my goodness, 800 steps and in this humidity.
But you had great views, right?
I was sweating so much that I feel like all the water that I was drinking was just coming out of my body right away.
And that's because you're wearing long sleeves and a long dress, impeding any chance of any breeze to touch your body.
Better than sunburn, right?
Well, I could tell you one thing. I hiked the whole way.
Tony even did the part where there wasn't stairs, and I was done. You know what? I made it to the top of the 800 something steps. I'm good. I'll stay here and wait for you.
The extra section that I hiked didn't really add too much to the view, as the sweeping view was technically unimpeded by the time you're at the top of the staircase.
Mm-hmm.
But it was still nice because it felt more rugged and you're more outdoorsy. You're actually hiking in nature rather than hiking in a safe staircase.
Not everyone walked up there with you. You're just one of a couple people, right?
No, I think at least half the tour group did the hike.
Oh, really? I was in my own world already. I already opened the umbrella and I was already under it. It was super hot already. The sun was out by the time we made it to the top. And after a few photos, I was like, okay, I need to rest up a little bit.
And the day just started. That was your first activity for the day.
I would say Indonesia, even though May is their dry season and the humidity is lower than usual, it's comfortable for the people that live there. For me, being so used to San Francisco weather where there's no humidity,
The unacclimated foreign tourists.
I was losing my mind to the weather there.
But I find Badar Island to be very enjoyable. The hikes was very gratifying, and it was very rewarding to see the different views when we reached a different vista point. But when you really reach the top, it's diminishing returns because the whole sweeping views you can already see at the top of the stairs. Anything more is just a slightly different angle. If you do happen to be at Padar Island, just stop at the top of the stairs and move on to the other islands that we're about to embark on.
So the next stop was Pink Sand Beach, which we arrived there kind of like later in the morning. So was it really pink?
Yes, it was very pink.
Really? It was very pink to you?
It was very pink.
I honestly thought it was a really pale pink. It was definitely pink, but through my sunglasses, which were beige tinted, it looked more pink. But when I took off my sunglasses, it was definitely a lot more pale than I expected. They said if we had arrived earlier in the morning, like very early morning, because the tide would be a little bit lower at that point and it didn't wash away all of the pink sand, it would be even more pink. But it was indeed pink, different than your typical beach sand.
And when we arrived to this pink sand beach, there was no pier waiting for us. So we had to literally jump off the boat and storm the waters onto the island.
Oh yeah, that was actually really nice because finally I had gotten like water on my legs and I was like, oh, this is really like cooling off. I really wanted to go look around and we did see a lot of pink coral. The reason why Pink Sand Beach is the color it is because of the pink coral that's there that breaks down and goes into the sand. It was very beautiful and we got a lot of picturesque shots. Other people were able to snorkel while we stopped there. But why didn't you go in the water, huh?
I didn't prepare any swimsuits and I was wearing jeans. I don't know why I was wearing jeans, but I was wearing jeans. And jeans, when wet, feels really bad.
But you didn't have to stay with me. I encouraged you to go snorkeling or do whatever.
So you could lose me at the sea? You know I can't swim with a bum leg, right?
So we pretty much stayed on shore and we took beautiful photos.
Touched the sand.
We touched a really hot sand. The waters were very cool. It was very refreshing to at least have your feet in there.
But yeah, that was a really nice short stay at the Pink Sand Beach. And then we're off to Komodo Island.
So I don't know if you can access Komodo Island without going on a tour, but they do have tour guides on Komodo that will bring you to go see the Komodo Dragons because it's not safe for you to go wander the island on your own and find them yourself because, like we mentioned, Komodo Dragons do eat people or they can eat people. Were you scared at all, Tony?
In the beginning, yes. Because when you see videos of Komodo dragons, they are very laid back. And when they go into aggressive mode, they really just snap at any moment. I was like, oh, we better be careful and not piss them off. We don't want them suddenly lurking up on us and have a gang just run up on us and mob us down.
Like I mentioned, there were tour guides on there. The only thing they had to protect us was a stick.
A 5 feet long stick, but yes, literally just a stick.
So for our whole tour, which was about 13 to 15 people, including our guides, there were 2 of the Komodo Island tour guides there with 2 sticks. They were bringing us around, and initially we saw like a smaller Komodo dragon walking around. I'm like, oh, yay, we were able to see one. Because, you never know with wildlife if you are going to be able to see any. Some may just be sleeping, but we are very lucky that day. We actually saw so many different sized Komodo dragons.
We saw one just chilling by the beach, and we saw a really big active one that was willing to walk. The tour guide was like, hey, anyone want to get some videos or photos? I could help you out. And we're just like, oh, take a photo for us. We handed them our phone, and we're just walking behind the Komodo dragon, stalking it. All I could think about was the rap song, every day I'm hustling, every day I'm hustling. And the Komodo dragon was just hustling and just walking, and we're just in the back all creeping up on it, being shocked and everything.
And we did get a video and lots of photos from it. You could see in the video that the Komodo dragon was slithering its tongue while it was slowly walking with us in the back. It was amazing. That was exactly the adventure that I was hoping for. Even though no one understood what I was really trying to get out of it. But for me, it was an unforgettable experience. I truly felt that was different. Not everyone can go and experience this.
There was also a very young Komodo dragon that waltzed its way into a water hole to drink some water. I was like, whoa, this is actual wildlife. Little small Komodo dragon coming out, lapping up some water, checking for predators, and then buggering off. I was like, whoa.
And what we learned was that Komodo dragons actually live up in trees up until they're like 3 years old. The little baby one that we saw, it was very small. It looked kind of like a lizard. I wouldn't even have known that was a Komodo dragon.
What an insult.
But yeah, if you do want to see any of our Komodo Island videos or photos, you can follow us on Instagram on Time to Check In Pod. We'll share some of the images that we got from this trip.
But that was your headline. The reason we came to this part of the world for our honeymoon was seeing the oversized lizards. Very worth it.
Oh, hell yeah.
That it made your trip?
It made up for everything I experienced in Bali.
Wow. So just seeing some extremely big dragons made you feel all the better.
Yeah. They were in their own habitat. I was able to see like their living conditions and kind of get not up close and personal because that's not safe, but close enough to kind of see how they move and where they live, what they eat. It was different for me. You don't get to see that every single day.
I'm just glad you enjoyed seeing all those wildlife. Because when I saw the deer, I'm like, oh, deer. They show up in the hills or next to freeways all the time, and they get hit by cars. And I saw, oh, big Komodo dragon, don't eat me. Oh, chicken running along the beach. And then they're just doing their signature call. I'm like, so much wildlife.
So you're just very nonchalant about seeing them.
Unfortunately, yes, but it's nice to see something different instead of just cats and dogs.
So did you enjoy this leg of the trip? Do you think that seeing a Komodo dragon made your trip?
No, because I wasn't the one that wanted to see Komodo dragons.
Oh,
honestly.
so you're along for the ride.
Yep, I'm the travel princess for this one.
The one that didn't even know that we're heading to Flores.
In all honesty, yes, I didn't know.
Well, there were other parts of this tour as well. One stop was actual snorkeling to see manta rays. We went to a manta point where there's supposedly a lot of manta rays. Our tour only got to see one. Tony and I stayed on the boat, and then we just watched our tour members jump into the water and try to find a manta ray. When they came back up, they just said, oh yeah, there was just one.
And we had a private boat just chilling and just relaxing out.
It was really nice because at that point there was a breeze. And we were not under the sun because we were in the boat, but kind of like in a covered section where you could still enjoy the water and the breeze. While they were trying to find the manta ray in the water, we were just enjoying the boat to ourselves.
And then after we herded everyone back onto the boat, we moved on to what I find to be one of the most beautiful things out in the ocean, which is a lagoon.
Which is like a sand strip, and it's uninhabited. It's literally surrounded with blue waters, and it's just a long strip of sand and a beach.
It wasn't even a beach. It was just a sand dune that stuck up over the ocean. And it's just a nice place to ride your boat there, get off, and relax.
So we decided to stay on the boat, and we just kind of like watch others play around. But we were really just relaxing and getting a little bit of sunshine, not direct sunlight though, and enjoying the breeze.
There was also a lot of other boats that were docked at the lagoon. So I don't think being on the lagoon, where there was also a lot of people there, would be the most relaxing. And having the Indonesian sun beam on us would be detrimental to our relaxation. Unfortunately, we're vampires. I felt that staying on the boat was better. We just got to enjoy the view, slightly rocking, and just watching everyone have fun. Like, oh, look at those kids have fun. We're just here with our little martini, just chilling.
We didn't have no martini.
You get what I mean.
When you go and look up these types of lagoons, you see it looks so beautiful when there's no one on it. But when there's a sea of people on it, taking a photo is like not that nice. So in our opinion, staying on the boat was a lot nicer just looking out and seeing that view.
And off we go to see turtles for our last stop on this boat ride.
That was a slight change of an itinerary because of something that happened on the original last stop of this tour. They said, oh, we'll bring you over to see turtles. And that's what they did. Obviously, we didn't jump in again. I don't even know if they saw turtles. At that point, I was kind of sleepy because it was close to like 4 o'clock already. And we were up for 12 hours at least. And at that point, after they saw or didn't see any turtles, we got back on the boat and we went back to the pier.
Oh, I actually forgot to mention, somewhere on the boat ride, they provided a lunch. Not to sound blasphemous. Leading up to when we had that lunch meal, we had a lot of different Indonesian food, private chef prepared, eating out at nice restaurants in Bali. But that was the best Indonesian meal I had. On a boat, eating a lunchbox that had rice and fried chicken.
Yeah, that was very surprising. I ate the entire lunchbox and I was wanting more.
Which is absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it was just some random lunchbox.
When we got back to the resort, we were greeted by an unreal sunset. From the resort, we look out into the horizon, which is facing west, so we could see the sunset. The colors were so beautiful. It was purple, and I was speechless. I was just staring at it, gazing into the sun. PSA, don't look into the sun. But I was just left standing there or sitting on a chair, looking at the sunset and letting time pass.
We caught the sunset every single day that we were at this resort, which was called the Ayana Komodo Resort. I had chosen it because of this view. Within this view, there was an uninhabited island that was like triangular shaped that really made it seem like a landmark. The views were just unreal. I had posted a photo of one of the sunsets that we had experienced on this island onto Instagram, and for some reason, it had labeled it as AI'd.
That is how crazy it is. Even Instagram would think that this photo is fake.
Yeah.
But in true honesty, everything about that photo is real.
I was very confused. I was like, it at most had Tony's like phone auto filter because when he takes a photo of it, it just probably vibrants the color a little bit potentially. And I was like, it was definitely not put through AI though.
That is actually quite a statement, don't you think?
Yeah, even with the photos potentially being a little bit more vibrant in color, with my own eyes, it looked exactly the same. Even maybe more beautiful in real life.
So that's a hell of a show for this location and this view.
And the good thing about it is you can actually visit this resort even if you're not staying there. If let's say you decide to stay at a cheaper resort or even a cheaper hotel, you can definitely make your way there to watch the sunset. I highly recommend it. I think it definitely has one of the best views on the island.
Now that you're at an all-inclusive hotel, you have a wide variety of food selection.
I mean, I wouldn't say wide variety, but they had food outside of your authentic Indonesian cuisine.
They were tailored for international guests, so they had a variety.
I looked at the list of restaurants to see what we wanted to eat for our first meal when we
Not
arrived.
Indonesian.
Yes, definitely not Indonesian because we had 5 days of it on Bali. And I saw Japanese food. Oh yeah, let's eat some Japanese food. I don't know how authentic it is, but I don't care.
I had my reserves on that one because we're about to go to Japan in a few days or a week. Do we want to spoil it already?
I just wanted something else.
Yeah, I was game too, so it's all good.
And also, having fresh fish on Indonesia was probably a different experience because they also get a lot of seafood too, but probably different kinds compared to what we can get elsewhere.
The experience was kind of nice.
But I actually thought that the best thing at that restaurant was their garlic fried rice.
Yeah, not the fish, not their tempura, not their drink.
It was their fried rice.
So next time if we do go, we're just going to order fried rice and call it a day.
Probably. But another really unforgettable meal on Flores, and it was also at this resort, was actually the seafood grill. When you are on Flores or even in Bali, you need to try it because their seafood is also very fresh and somewhat different than what you can get in the United States or even in different parts of Asia.
The restaurant simply looks like a market where you pick which fish or which seafood you would like to eat, and you just point to those and they weigh it and will put it on the grill to cook it for you. We had very little expectations walking into this meal.
It was really nice and right by the beach too, but it was already dark, so we were just kind of eating with some like nice lighting.
And tides just ringing in our ears. But the food was actually really good. Not only was the fish very fresh, the seafood is very delicious and juicy. It just had a great vibe. The food tasted delicious. And it was a very beach resort, all-inclusive hotel feel. It's like, oh yes, this is what you came for.
I really enjoyed that meal. And also because we ate at night, I didn't feel hot at all. So I was really focused on the flavor of the food. And because it was grilled really fresh, the juiciness of that fish and shrimp and lobster, it just all came and hit my mouth. And I was like, wow.
I don't consider this an Indonesian meal, but it was probably one of the best meals we had in Bali and Indonesia. So we raved a lot about Ayana Komodo. Great views, stunning service, excellent seafood grill.
Yeah, and this isn't sponsored, okay? This is really just our opinion.
Did you really enjoy it deep down?
I really did. I went from being really anxious about the sun and how we were feeling and just the entire Bali experience that I finally felt relaxed and I was able to enjoy Indonesia from this leg of the trip. I was very surprised because I was a little hesitant to go and book a resort, especially an all-inclusive one, because I really wanted to see what was outside on the island and also be part of the Indonesian culture. But turns out that I'm not really cut out for it. Being able to experience this resort at this time after we had experienced the villas in Bali, it was a very good choice. Maybe I should have booked the Ayana in Bali because it was also another famous resort. But because we're already staying at the one in Komodo Island, I was like, I don't want to stay at the same type of resort on two places. Maybe we would have had a better experience on Bali if I had booked that because we had so much fun on Komodo. It was unforgettable because we were so relaxed and enjoying our time there.
You know you're relaxed when you're able to go work out at their gym.
That's true. We even had the mindset to go and be healthy and exercise. We also did experience their spa services a couple of times. We went to eat at their restaurants. We went to the pool and watched the sunset. We just used all of their services, really. At this resort, there were other activities that I mentioned. We checked out one of their really large boats. We were supposed to go on yoga by the beach, but because the Indonesian sun was not very nice, I had to cancel it. I didn't want to do that under the burning sun.
Similar to your experience, I felt like we don't have to think. We just relax, lay there, stop. Don't look at anything else. Look at the view, look at the sunset, listen to the tides, enjoy whatever they had to offer in the hotel, and just breathe it in.
Yeah, and don't look at the bill that we got afterwards, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because it was all inclusive. Everything gets billed to the room. And at the end, you get to see the bill and you're like, oh, shit. Okay. Well, that was fun.
But in true honesty, Ayana Komodo and Flores, to a certain extent, didn't feel like we were actually in Indonesia. It felt more like a resort island than the actual Indonesia. So it was a good disconnect.
It really painted Honeymoon on there.
Yeah, same here.
But one last thing that we want to mention before we end this episode is, remember I mentioned on our first episode about the anti-malaria medication because Flores actually is an island that has malaria risk. So our doctor did prescribe us anti-malaria medication and highly recommended that we take it in terms of preventing any disease. So we had to take it 2 days prior to arriving in Flores. So we started taking it when we were in Bali. And then we had to take it the 3 days that we're in Flores. But I had asked my doctor, hey, if we actually don't get bit by a mosquito at the end of our Flores trip, do we still need to take it for the 5 days after we leave Flores? And my doctor said, if you're really sure that you didn't get bitten, just make sure you check yourself really clearly. And if you didn't get a mosquito bite, then yeah, I guess you can stop it. So at the time, I was like really hoping that with our preventative mosquito sprays and wearing long sleeve clothing and pants, we would not get bit. But on our last day there, when we were checking our bodies, I found a big mosquito bite on Tony's foot.
Ugh, I was so looking forward to not eating that medicine every day.
Yeah, we ended up having to do it because I also had gotten bit on my leg. It wasn't a lot of mosquito bites, and I did check with the resort staff before we had went there that, hey, is there a risk for malaria in your resort? And then they said, no, we definitely repel mosquitoes in all the areas of the resort. So I did feel safe there. But because we were going on the tour and exploring other parts of Flores, I was like, okay, we need to be careful there. So even with our mosquito repellent, which was really strong, we were still unable to not get bitten. We did take 5 more days of the malaria medication. And at the end of the day, we did stay safe.
And that was us being very sheltered at an all-inclusive hotel.
And also being very unsheltered, going out and seeing a lot of wildlife.
And on that bombshell, it's time to check out. I'm Tony,
I'm Vivi.
and we'll catch you all in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.